Good morning. We will call the March 1st, 2022 City Council meeting to order. I'll ask Councilmember Marta Wallace to lead us in our invocation and pledge. If you would, please stand.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today and for allowing us to gather together for the business of our city. Father, we ask you to open the minds and hearts of each council member to make decisions that are pleasing to you. Father, continue to bless Jackson and help us always remember to help those that cannot help themselves. In your name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item 3 is roll call. And Sandy, I think you see that all council members are present. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from the February 1st and February 7th council meetings. Those minutes were sent out to you in your packets. There be no additions or corrections to those minutes. Those stand approved as read. We have proclamations and recognitions. We have one recognition today. I'll go down there, recognizing American Heritage Girls 1614 to receive a check for their Trash for Cash efforts. They will please join me at the podium. Stand on the bridge. Y'all can get the picture now. Come on. There you go. All right. American Heritage Girls is a Christ-centered character and leadership development program for girls ages 15 to 18. And are dedicated to the mission of building women of integrity through service to God, family, community, and country. Keep Jackson Beautiful offers a Trash for Cash program where groups can earn $100 per mile of street up to 10 miles by reducing litter. Emma Hoover, age 13, is working to achieve her Harriet Tubman Level Award and ultimately her Stars and Stripes National Honor for American Heritage Girls. This level award requires Emma to identify a service project. Trash for Cash project, organize, recruit help, and execute on her own. She enlisted the help of 15 other American Heritage Girls, and together they collected 58 bags of trash from the streets of Ridgecrest, Oil Well, University Parkway, Oil Well at Volunteer, East University Parkway, and Cooper Anderson. It took them 3 days to complete the routes that consisted of 10 streets, but dedication and hard work earned them $1,000. Emma couldn't be here today, so we have Jennifer Prebeck and her daughter Becky to accept on behalf of Emma. Also in attendance is Chris, I'm going to say that wrong, Vitato. I knew it and I still couldn't pronounce it. The clinic director for Birth Choice. So it's my honor to present the $1,000 check. And then you can present the check as you want to Birth Choice. Emma wants to donate to fund Pregnancy Resource Center. She learned about Birth Choice as a local option for pregnant mothers, and she hopes this will help continue their mission and vision, building more caring and strong community. I'll let you present the check and say anything you would like.
Thank you so much. This is an honor and a blessing. We appreciate it. We can use this money to help women in unplanned pregnancies. And we've been around for 33 years now, and donations like this and your support will help us be around another 33 years at least. Thank you so much.
All right, Council, before we move on, there is an item that was passed out to you from Stan, from the Planning Department. It should go on second reading if there are no objections. This was passed on first reading. It's a consideration of ordinance to rezone property in Valleydale Drive and Lansbury Place from RS1 to RS2. And so this was omitted on the agenda. Mr. Pilot did cover it in the pre-agenda meeting. And so if there are no objections, I will just add this to item 1 under second reading. There's no objections there. All right, hearing none, we'll add that. Item 6, invitation for public comment. Any item under first reading unless otherwise designated. I have an opportunity for public comment. For anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to, you can be recognized at that time. Item 1 under first reading is a consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at 1384 block of Ashport Road from RG2, General Residential District, and RS2, Single Family Residential District, to RG3, General Residential District, comprising of 13.76 acres, more or less. And this item, the public hearing, will be held at the second reading.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
You have in your packet the materials pertinent to this rezoning request. This item was presented to the Planning Commission, and they are recommending it to you. This was an area that was already zoned RG2, which is a general residential classification that allows multifamily. In looking at the proposed development schemes for this property, the developer began to look at the use of 3-story buildings instead of 2.5, and that's the difference between RG2. Basically, one of the few differences between RG2 and RG3 is RG3 allows 3 stories, so that's the reason why they're asking for the rezoning.
So moved.
Second.
A second. Stan, real quick, before we get into that, could you explain to the council, again, I know you explained at the pre-agenda meeting why 4 of these items will have a public hearing at the second reading?
We are informed by the Jackson Sun out of, basically USA Today, the whole company. We are informed of the deadlines that are required to get something in the paper for public notice. And as you know, all the things that we do are governed by state law, and state law requires that we have 15 days notice on any rezoning. We identified these items, we sent them into the Jackson Sun by the deadlines that they give us, and they failed to get them in the paper on the right day. So that's the reason why we are having to push the public hearing to the second reading, because, again, everything we do has a legal basis, and we want to follow the process to the letter. So it is not a failure on the part of the city, it's a failure on the part of the Jackson Sun to not get our agenda items in the paper when we need them to. So they did issue a letter of apology, and we're hoping that going forward that they will get these in the paper when they're needing to run.
All right, thank you, Stan. We have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 2 is consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at Heron Grove Road, Wiley Street, and South Creek Drive from SC1 FH Plan Commercial Flood Hazard District to RS1 FH Single Family Residential Flood Hazard District to B5 FH Highway Business Flood Hazard District, comprising of 10.63 acres, more or less. And this also has a public hearing at the second reading.
You have the materials pertinent to this rezoning request, and this was a piece of property that was zoned some time ago as commercial, so we're not changing it from residential basically to commercial. We're changing it from one commercial class to another. It was originally proposed for a shopping center, and that development never came to fruition, so now the current owner is asking to rezone it to B5 to allow him to develop mini storage, which is needed in the area. Also, there is some flood hazard area on the property, and they will have to go through the proper procedures to develop within those flood hazard areas if they choose to. This item would be presented to the Board of Zoning Appeals in the future for the mini storage, so they will submit a site plan at that time, and we will verify the development plan and make sure that any flood hazard areas are depicted and also protected. Also, there's some residential uses that are join this. We will also make sure at that time that there's the proper buffer for those residential uses. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Move the approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second, and this item will have a public hearing at the second reading. Any further discussion or questions from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 3 is a consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located at 1405 Hollywood Drive from OC Office Center District to SC1 Planned Commercial District, comprising of 1.08 acres, more or less. This also have a public hearing at the second reading.
Again, this item was presented to the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they're recommending it to you. This is an area that one of the developers that we've been working with in our redevelopment areas is choosing to redevelop this property also. It is an area that's already zoned partially SC1. So part of his property is zoned SC1, part of it is OC. He's just wanting to consolidate that zoning under one zoning scheme, and he wants to build an apartment complex there, and we've received those plans and the elevations of those buildings, and we feel like it'll be a great addition to that area.
All right, any questions from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Again, this will have a public hearing at the second reading. Council, please vote.
Motion pass 9-0.
Item 4 is consideration of an ordinance to close a portion of Southwest Alley from Sycamore Street to Highway 45 bypass. This again will also have a public hearing at the second reading.
This is an alley that is south of where the bypass comes in North Highland. And basically, this alley has not been used by the public in years. Basically, it was a loading dock area for the businesses that were located on either side of this alley. So now the owner that owns both buildings is wanting to incorporate that property into his building and in his site plan so that he can use it and it be his. And we are recommending approval of it to you from the Planning Commission.
All right, any questions from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Again, public hearing will be held at the second reading. Council, please vote.
Motion pass 9-0.
Item 5 is a consideration of an ordinance to close and abandon the northern end of Fiberglass Road from Lower Brownsville Road to a point 3,280 feet south.
This is an item that is part of our industrial development. This is part of the process of developing that area for industrial uses and the proposed industrial use that we currently are working on. This part of Fiberglass Road, we own the property on both sides of it. So at some point, once this is effective, it will be closed and the road will be rerouted. So the southern portion of Fiberglass will turn and will reroute toward 223 and open to 223. So that is the reason for this abandonment, is to consolidate the properties that are on both sides of the road now for industrial development and also in the future to reroute the road to 223.
So moved.
Have a motion. Motion is second. Any further discussion from council?
Who's second?
I think Mr. Cisco.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Cisco. Any discussion from council?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, do we have a timeline on the reroute?
Mandy White is here. She maybe can provide. I just do my part. She handles everything else.
Nice handoff.
He pretends like I didn't text it to him 10 minutes ago. Let me get my phone if you don't mind. It looks like the reroute is scheduled to begin October or November of this year and be completed summer or fall of 2023.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this is an item on first reading, so I will open the public hearing for anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to this item. You recognized? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Motion pass 9-0.
Thank you.
See, wasn't her presentation of the timeline much better than I can do?
Item 6 is a consideration of an ordinance to reapportion the 9 council districts of the city of Jackson.
All right, so every 10 years when the census comes out, the law requires that cities and counties reapportion their districts to match the new population figures. So basically, it's a statistical exercise in most cases, but it's also, there's some clear things within the law that you strive to do. And the statistical part of it is that you have a total population, and given the number of districts that you have, you divide that number, in this case, by 9, and that gives you an optimum population. In other words, you're trying to reach balance in terms of population numbers across your districts. So once you divide by 9, that gives your optimum population. Then what you do is you take the current populations within your existing districts and you determine the deviation. In other words, the amount of change between what the optimum population is and what the current population is. So In Jackson, the growth trends have been to the north, so the midtown area or central part of the city has lost population over time. Now we're making efforts and strides to change that, but in the last 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, the population has continued to grow in the northwest and north portions of our city. So District 9 and District 7 represent the areas where the most growth occurred. So those districts were in excess of the optimum population by a good amount. The central part of the city, where the districts lost population, they had to gain population to get closer to the optimum population. So what you have before you is a plan that we created to try to, one, keep the districts as close as we could to the existing traditional areas that these districts represented. Two, to reach that optimum population, get as close as we can to try to keep that deviation low. Three, to try not to dilute any minority populations in those areas that are traditionally African American or other. We tried to keep those population statistics as close as we could to the historical levels. And four, that we didn't gerrymander, that we didn't create artificial districts or artificial demographics by trying to gerrymander districts to create something. So, the law is very clear. You're not to gerrymander. You're not to dilute. You're to try to reach the optimum population 5% in either direction, low or high. And the other one that we put in there is not required by the law, but it's a good practice, is we try to keep the incumbents in their districts. So this plan represents our attempt to do that. We had a redistricting committee that met, and we worked together as a body to come up with a plan that would meet all those tests. So what you have is before you is the plan that they have recommended to you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
All right, any questions from council? All right, this is an item on first reading, so I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to can be recognized at this time. Oh, yeah, okay.
Mayor, while he's coming up, I have a quick question.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Stan, could you tell us who served on the redistricting committee?
I don't have my list with me, but I can get it to you.
Get that to us.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't.
Do you know, Mayor?
Well, you all approved the committee. I can't remember off the top of my head, though, who I was on.
I asked a question, so I obviously don't remember either. But we did approve the committee. I remember that.
Yes, state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Byron Elam, and I was one of the 5 that served on the redistricting committee. Now, first, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to do so. I voted against the proposed map. My reasoning for doing so is that the 2020 census revealed that Jackson is a majority minority city, yet the proposed districts out of 9, only 3 maintain a majority minority population. And also, I think great lengths were taken to maintain the residency of the incumbents. And to me, the goal of redistricting is to enhance the voice and representation of the people, not to protect incumbents. It's my understanding that the local branch of the NAACP has hired a group called the MGG Research Group, a redistricting lab, which is a part of Tufts University, to develop a map that is perhaps more equitable and more representative of who we are as a city. And I believe that map is in its final stages. So I say that all to say that my goal and wish is that we pass a map that represents better who we are as a city. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, anyone else wish to speak in favor of or opposition to?
Good morning, Mayor and City Council.
Good morning.
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Harold Carter, President of Jackson, Madison County NAACP. The issue with redistricting has always been about representation. This city has changed over the last 10 years. A white population have left the city. I'm sure that we'll get a lot more people back after a few more months, another year or two. But the issue of representation has always loomed large in a city that's populated by a tremendous amount of African Americans. If you take a look at the Hispanics, the Asians, other ethnicities along with the African American community, that's over 50%. So we look at 9 districts, and you only have 3. It's something that I think we all should look at and examine as to why. And we understand that the incumbents, and like Stan said, that it's not the law that they remain in that district. It's always preferable if we can do that. And working with Tufts University and some other experts, we feel like that we'll have that information for your review before your second reading, and the explanation as to why. And we would hope that you would give that some consideration. We realize that race is an issue. It's been an issue, it's still an issue. It doesn't need to be if we can take a look through these lenses. African Americans can lead in this district, in this city. Give them the chance to represent themselves, Asians, Hispanics. So we're just saying, just be fair, to take a look, because 3 out of 9 doesn't represent the city of Jackson. And I thank you for your time, and Stan does a good job. But we just happen to disagree with this particular issue because it's so important going into the future. The world is changing, this country is changing, and we need to represent that change. Thank you.
Mr. Carter,
Yes, sir.
very quickly, when will that map be ready?
In a matter of days. We'll get it to you, to the mayor's office, and they can distribute it to the city council members and whoever else wants it. We'll release it to the public.
Okay, I look forward to
Okay.
receiving it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Mr. Pilot, what pertinent timelines do we have at present regarding this?
It's important that this council adopt a plan at their April city council meeting so that they can have that plan in place prior to when the state received their population figures, which was about a year ago, sometime around the April 21st or so. So we're trying to beat that deadline to match what's in the charter and what's in our city code. So it's important that we do that. Now, again, it won't take effect until the next election, but your charter does call out when that should be done. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the development of the map, if you have any. I know that there's been some mention, and this item wasn't a surprise. It was brought up during our deliberations of this plan, and Jackson has changed demographically, but the populations are now located all over Jackson. They're not located in one concentrated area like in the historical past. So minority populations have moved into all areas of our town, and if you look at the north districts, you'll notice that the minority populations have grown in those districts. So again, I think when you're pursuing this process, I mean, the main thing that we strive to do is not to gerrymander, to create artificial districts that don't represent areas or neighborhoods or traditional areas of districts. So I was charged with looking at if there was a possibility to raise that number of council districts, and it was just not possible to do that without really trying to gerrymander to find pockets of minority population. And again, if this council desires to accept a plan where we just disregard who's the incumbents, we can do that, but historically that has not been the case. So again, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Stan, can you speak a bit to the methodology? We had talked a bit about how populations have shifted and how you were tasked with moving certain districts into certain.
Yes, sir. District 1, which is the South District, South tends to be static in its population. It's not growing at tremendous rates, so it basically has to pull in additional areas. At one time, South District didn't basically go past the river. But to get their population up, it's had to move north and it had to take in a little bit more area this time to get closer to the optimum. District 2, District 4, District 3, all those districts are contained within that midtown area. And they're kind of like dominoes. If you pull from one that's low, then it gets lower. And so it has to grab farther to get more people to get in the district. So it just, when you start trying to create districts, you have to be careful, because when you pull from one that's low, you have to make it up. And District 2 has just historically been an African-American represented district and a minority district, and if you start pulling too far, then you start getting into that area of what we call diluting, where you start pulling in population that now changes those demographics for that area. 4 was another area which was represented by Harvey Buchanan, who's now not with us anymore, but it was losing population and it had to gain population. So the only where it could go is to take some away from District 3, which Ernest represents. And so Ernest had to gain some population to get his up. So when I start these things, I basically look at what we've got to achieve and try to keep the numbers as close to what they are now. And I think this plan represents a good plan, because our optimum our deviations are all below 1%, except for one. Our racial composition stayed fairly close to what they were 10 years ago, which is sometimes impossible to do. So I think we've done a good job. Now, can you develop other plans? Can you change districts? Can you make other shapes out of them? Sure. But when you start doing that, you start getting into precincts and where people vote and all those things that people hold in high esteem, especially the areas that they've been traditionally associated with. So again, you have to keep in mind what you do as you move forward. And so Midtown had to keep growing north, because north had too many. And the only way that the north area can get closer to the population is to lose population. So that's where District 5, District 6, they all had to pull from the north districts, because Districts 1, 2, and 4 had to start pulling from some of their districts. So again, when we pursue this process, we keep the letter of the law ahead of us and what we have to achieve. And again, Harold is right. I said it myself. Incumbency is not a parameter of the law, but consistency is important in representation, because if you flip-flop, people on a regular basis, or if you throw that out every 10 years, there's a possibility that you might lose that consistency. So again, I'll answer any other questions you have, but again, we don't take this process lightly when we do it.
Mayor?
Yes.
Is it possible for us to delay this or for a week at least? You said a couple of days, the other map be in, just take a look at it and possibly have a special call meeting to look at this?
If the council wishes to do that, it's certainly in your parameter to table the issue and request for a special call meeting for the charter.
I'd like to make a motion to table this to a week. You said, how long would it be? About another couple of days? Table it for a week and have a special call meeting, take a look at it.
I'd like to second it.
All right. There's a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I think that Mr. Pilot said if we do it by the April meeting, I'm not opposed to a special call meeting, but if we do it by the April meeting, that would still be within the deadline.
We'd have to have the second reading for the new,
Okay,
for
so
the
we
new
would
adopt,
have to
because it's
have
an
a
ordinance, have to have two
okay.
readings. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table. Motion to table. Motion and a second to table this, and is the motion also included a request for a special call meeting 1 week from today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the motion is to table this item and also a request for a special call meeting to take up this item 1 week from today. I got that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second on that as well. Any discussion from council? Council, please vote.
Cisco, you're abstaining.
Not vote? Okay.
Okay. Motion passed 8-1.
Okay, all right, and we'll take this item up next week. Once I'll get you I'll get the council a time for that special call meeting next Tuesday. All right, item 7 is a proposed budget amendment for insurance recoveries for Jackson Fire Department, the amount of $17,995.35. I think you have that information there. Any questions? I think Chief Samuels can answer the questions if you have any. Unfortunately, Mr. Arnold is out. He had foot surgery end of last week, and he texted yesterday and said he's trying to be a good patient. So he's trying to stay home and listen to Mrs. Arnold.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. This is an item on first reading. I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or opposition to be recognized. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, the second reading, and y'all remember the item 1 insert is consideration of an ordinance to rezone property located east of Valleydale Drive in Lansbury Place from RS1 Single Family Residential District to RS2 Single Family Residential District comprising of 16.10 acres more or less. This item was passed on first reading.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, so now new item 2 is proposed budget amendment, insurance recoveries for JPD in the amount of $42,030.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 3 is a proposed budget amendment funding for the Jackson Chamber, the amount of $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, we go on to new business. Item 1 is consideration of a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute and deliver warranty deed and closing documents to Georgia Pacific Consumer Operations, LLC.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, questions from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 2 is a consideration of agreement for purchase and sale of real and personal property for Omen Arena with the Jackson-Madison County School System.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Questions from council? Please vote.
Ernest, are you voting? Motion passed 9-0.
Item 3 is a consideration of financial and compliance audit contract, Jackson Transit Authority with Malden Jenkins.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Proposals were received for a financial and compliance audit for the Jackson Transit Authority. Proposals were sent out to 21 vendors. 2 vendors responded, Malden and Jenkins and ATA. Evaluation team was comprised of Councilwoman Skinner, Bobby Arnold, and myself, and we recommend award to Malden and Jenkins. Best proposal was received at a cost for a 5-year fiscal audit, $142,500.
Any questions from council? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Thank you, Council.
Item 4 is consideration of a contract for tipper renewal.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 5 is a consideration of the landfill CPI increase.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 6, consideration of proposed sale of property, 126 Daughtery Street, the amount of $4,000.
So moved.
Have a motion? Second. And a second. Any questions from council? Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 7 is consideration of proposed sale of property, 204 East King, the amount of $4,500.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Questions from council? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 8 is consideration of proposed sale of property, 111 Neff Street, in the amount of $3,080.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 9 is consideration of a resolution to support the restoration of the historic shared sales tax for the state of Tennessee.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
Item 10, consideration of committee and board appointments, Health and Education Housing Board, JTA Board, and Expenditure Committee, the appointment of Councilmember Skinner to replace Councilmember Buchanan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, several seconds. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 8-0, 1 abstain.
Education Foundation, the appointment of Tina Mercer.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
And there are no budget amendments less than 10,000. Item 12, consideration of invoices over 10,000.
So moved.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Council, please vote.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, being no other business coming before the council, meeting is adjourned.
What's up?